It has that imagery where it's kind of stereotyped and whatnot, but I feel like it would be more sensible for the historical.
Yeah, that's
historical bracket.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Don't release it as entertainment for children because that's definitely not for children.
Yeah. What's good, y'all? It's the Demouchets REACT, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, babe?
Today we're back with another American reaction. Super excited about this video, guys. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell because
we're on the road to 100K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, all right? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's go.
Throughout the history of animation, there have been several instances of content having gone missing as a result of being banned
the strength and knowledge of my ancestors on my shoulders every day. So I think I'm going to have to relax for this.
Like, so these are the ones we never seen before he about to show us. Because I'm looking at all of them like, yo, coming up, I enjoyed them without knowing.
Well, no, they weren't on our TV.
Not this version of it, but
yeah,
I felt like it was just a flip to it. You know what I'm saying? We watched the same thing, they just colored it different.
It reminds me of, what is it called? The songs that we sing that we sung as children, and then learn the meaning behind the songs as adults and how played we felt.
Yeah.
So come on, ancestors, be quiet.
Oh, Lord.
Be quiet. Y'all know I get a little feisty.
The Censored 11 are a group of pre-1948 cartoons that have been withheld from syndication by the United Artists and have not been broadcast on TV since 1968. Produced by Warner Brothers over the span of 13 years, from 1931 to 1944, these cartoons became infamous for their intense ethnic stereotyping. While these are not the only Warner Brothers cartoons that feature this stereotyping, with many common examples being dated to the 40s and 50s, the Censored 11 are considered to be the most overt.
You saw that doll?
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to take off and start running. Y'all watch Lovecraft Country?
What's that?
Yeah, it's the doll when the little girl was running from her. And the dog. Oh Lord, I almost took off running.
Yo, hold on, I gotta pause it now.
While these are not the only Warner Brothers cartoons that feature this stereotyping, with many common examples being...
Yo, that's crazy. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. It's her turning around for me. Because there's a scene where she always turned around.
Yes. With a little...
And her hair was all crazy like...
Yes, yes. So, we watch a lot of historical dramas and stuff, so...
Get out on that one, man. I ain't catch that. I didn't know what this was. I'm looking at it, I'm like...
I forgot the name of the doll, but yeah.
Man.
Oh, wait. Is it Uncle Tom's Cabin? Is that what she's
It was a book that she read it from, and then it came to life.
Uncle Tom's Cabin. Yeah.
Dated to the 40s and 50s, the Censored 11 are considered to be the most overt. All This and Rabbit Stew is a well-known cartoon from the Censored 11, being one of 3 cartoons directed by Tex Avery and prominently featuring Bugs Bunny. The secondary character is an unnamed hunter and predates Elmer Fudd as the antagonist, being depicted with those ethnic stereotypes.
I mean, Elmer Fudd is a white man in modest, like it's how they have it on today television. You know what I'm saying? 'Cause when I was coming up, he wasn't black, he was white. But 1960s, he was black. It seems to me all the cartoons was painted as black people.
Yeah, and I did see maybe some Africans
with
the skirts.
Yeah.
You know, I did see that in the preview, so...
We're going to get to that, though. I know he's going to get to that soon. Because these are banned cartoons that never, you know what I'm saying.
Now, who done uploaded it to YouTube?
Made it. Somebody got the keys, bro.
And then labeled it as for kids. Now, I do know a lot of things like that has been uploaded on YouTube. When they make updates, it automatically get into the updates. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't for kids. Why they I don't know. I know, but
well, it's a cartoon, so they're gonna label it for kids.
Yeah, automatically.
Yeah, you know how that goes.
Including oversized clothing, a shuffle to his movement, and mumbling sentences.
Well, shut my mouth. Where the
accent.
This cartoon is also part of the 12 Missing Hares group, and as explained in the Toonheads special, at the time, this imagery wasn't seen as offensive to the audience, and the character was simply created to be Bugs' foil in the cartoon. Interestingly, Bob Clampett reused one of the scenes in a later Looney Tunes short from 1946, but an early version of Elmer Fudd can be seen in his own Censored 11 cartoon. The Isle of Pingo Pongo is another cartoon directed by Tex Avery, and follows a cruise ship from New York to a remote island, where inhabitants
it's crazy because I understand why they would want to take it down and label that stereotype in such a way because of the times that it was in. And then when you see the images, you'll be like, it's definitely just giving me almost, you know what I'm saying, what we going through at that time.
Right.
So then he flipped the script on it, and now it seems he had a lot more energy. Elmer Fudd had a whole lot more energy in the next films that came out after that.
I feel like I would have to. Now I know the characteristics was exaggerated, but I would have to see like what exactly did he do other than that was wrong. You know, because we could see a snippet of something and say, "Oh, they look mild," but no, what did he do?
All he did was hunt.
Okay.
All he did was hunt. Like if you see Elmer Fudd today, like how he do his thing, all he do is hunt.
Okay.
Trying to get the rabbit to go eat some food.
And then the cartoons back in the day didn't really speak.
No, they didn't.
It was just actions and tunes in the background. I wish it would go back to that.
Tom and Jerry, for instance.
Yes.
They ain't say a word.
Yes.
It's a whole lot of action.
Pongo reside. It also features a narrator who interacts with Elmer throughout the cartoon, as the first in a series of travelogue spoofs that are set up in this way. The reason for this cartoon being placed on the Censored 11 is in the depiction of the natives of the island, who are drawn as tall black characters with primitive features and reflect stereotypes of natives that were common during this era. They can also be seen playing the drums, leading to a jazz beat, which is described as a primitive savage rhythm in the cartoon, a connection made in poor taste to the genre. A 1939 article, printed in the Motion Picture Herald, written by an exhibitor, stated in comparison that the Warner Brothers Merry Melodies cartoons are as good as the Walt Disney stuff. Another reflection of how common it was to accept this type of humor during the time period.
Kids wouldn't see kids wouldn't see this.
Right, they would just see he just put it on their mouth, but he's talking
like the
about
creativity
the
of it.
The
yes,
plates.
they had the plates and they would put the plates and oversize it throughout the time of aging.
making fun of people.
See, you have to be knowledgeable of this type of stuff, and this is why we speak about teaching your children history, not to remind them of how things was, but to just give them a sense of to be aware of how things can be imaged, like how it can be repeated in such a way without it actually being repeated in such a way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, growing up now, if I would have saw this, I would have been like, oh, cartoon.
Oh, look, they just put it in their mouth.
But now that we, knowledgeable about it, and we, you know what I'm saying, and we're like, okay, we know what you guys are doing. Y'all make films like this.
Right. What is the... It's just making a mockery of all of it, though. You know, like, I really... Even the what would you... Ethnic groups... native ethnic groups who have not come into civilization, modern civilization. Like, I love that they hold on to their cultures. Like, what was it that we was reacting to? Somewhere in Brazil where I think I asked about the hurricanes, and they were like, they're so deep into the forest that they're not affected.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's still, I forgot what it was, but...
No, it makes sense. I know what you're talking about. I just can't put a title to it right now.
Right, like, just because it's different doesn't mean that it's wrong. And just to make a mockery of something, like, nah, that's
but, like, you got to think about it. This is how they was making their money.
But this was saying to kids.
But that's how they was making their money. The image of a black person was always used as a representation of a dollar without them being told. Like, I mean, and as times grew and evolved, you know what I'm saying? They didn't necessarily say, okay, I'm going to put them on there and I'm going to make money off of it. They didn't put that out there like that. They just knew from history that we always use the image of a black man for a dollar.
We can make money off of them. That's how
basically, that's how that go. I mean, look at it. All this changed over into a Caucasian man, like Elmer Fudge. You know what I'm saying? So, the coconut.
Another character similar in design to the hunter from All This and Rabbit Stew makes an appearance in Angel Puss, directed by Chuck Jones, and the only short in the Censored 11 that is actually from Looney Tunes, while all 10 others are classified as Merry Melodies. In this cartoon, a boy drawn with baggy clothes and a murmuring voice is tasked to drown a cat, which he reluctantly agrees to, after being persuaded by the cat he was supposed to drown. Disguised as a ghost, the cat haunts the boy and further depicts the common stereotypes of unintelligence and fear. In June 1994, Box Office Magazine praised the cartoon and stated in part, "A delectable bit of cartoon animation. There are a lot of hearty chuckles in the reel." Even more controversial than Angel Puss itself was how it aired in Los Angeles theaters, alongside a short from the March of Time series called...
if you guys wanted to stop and read that, you can always just go ahead and go back to it and catch back up with it. We usually stop it, but I was trying to read it, but I'm also interested in see what else he's going to come up with.
Americans All, which covered the themes of fighting prejudice and stereotypes. The African American community commented on this in a 1944 editorial written by Herman Hill, who stated in part, "Almost indirect irony was the pictures showing in Los Angeles, in that it was sandwiched between the main feature and March of Time's Americans All, which theme is aimed directly at the lessening of racisms. It has since been learned that the Warner Brothers had ordered the somewhat considered controversial Americans All to be shown in each of their theaters throughout the country as a contributory effort towards breaking down the evils of race prejudice. March of Time's offices were contacted, but stated they had nothing to do with the placement of Angel Puss alongside their Americans All short, but admitted that it was in poor taste. With the controversy that has arisen surrounding these cartoons, you might believe that copies of them would be hard to come across, but that's simply not the case.
This one looks familiar. Like, this storyline of this, I remember this. May not be with him, but I remember this storyline.
Yeah, animation is always repeated. It's just different characters. You know what I'm saying? And I kind of came across that at one point and always knew that. Like, it never left my head.
Yeah, so. Like as a kid, just how our son be looking for the glitches. We used to look for, they did that. They did this on this other network. Yeah, like.
Nah, kids these days are very smart. Like, when they have the electronics, because you got to think about it, they're growing up with electronics. So they get to see it and pause it and stop it and rewind it and get to have fun with it. And they like, yo, a glitch. Like, it's actually a conversation to them.
Right.
Not ours, though. Back in the day, we was just watching them.
Yeah, we didn't really have where we can stop and go back.
No, we
didn't.
didn't.
Just gotta wait for it to come on again.
Right.
While the interest in the censored 11 has been around since the early 2000s, when animation historians became more interested in their infamy, it was the rise of video sharing websites that led to their spread. As previously mentioned, the cartoons found their way onto YouTube as early as 2011, according to a New York Times article, which further popularized their infamy. Low-budget VHS and DVD compilations were a common source of them as well, in addition to some of the banned cartoons from World War II, and can still be bought online to this day. But these unofficial releases weren't the only way they could be viewed, and it was during a special event where their historical context was given for the first time. In April 2010, Warner Brothers and Turner Classic Movies organized a screening of the Censored 11 as part of their first annual Turner Classic Film Festival, held in Hollywood. The cartoons were sourced from restored 35mm prints, and the presentation was hosted by Donald Bogle, film historian and author. Cartoon historian Jerry Beck stated in the original announcement article that his sources claimed all 11 cartoons would be screened. However, it was confirmed that only 8 of them were seen, the only time Warner Brothers has ever exhibited them. Angel Puss, All This and Rabbit Stew, and Jungle Jitters were not shown. Speaking of Jungle Jitters, this was the first of 4 censored 11 cartoons to be directed by Friz Freleng. Jungle Jitters is another short that takes place on a remote island, with native islanders who are depicted as primitive and dark-skinned. A traveling salesman finds himself in a pot of boiling water, forced to choose between being eaten and a marriage to the village queen. He chooses the pot and the short ends. Reviews of the cartoon from the late 1930s praise its humor, with the Film Daily stating, "The characterizations are very amusing." Another example of how these stereotypes were a common part of society back then. Due to this cartoon falling into public domain, Jungle Jitters is one of the most widely available shorts from the Censored 11, having appeared on VHS tapes as early as the mid-1980s.
So that's my thing. That one I felt could have been any native group.
Yeah.
But indigenous group, anywhere in the world.
Facts.
But I've never seen a caricature of white people.
Back in the 1900s?
Even today. I've never seen one. Other than the, what do they call the politics thing? I can't think of what it's called. Yeah, so it's called a political cartoon. Besides that, I haven't really seen any. But then again, this is animals. But I just feel like they over-exaggerate us.
We are
animals
easily
look like us.
Yeah. We're easily painted. But Bugs Bunny, you know what I'm saying? Representation. He's a rabbit with, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's always an ideology behind what they're doing. But when it came to painting us on their cartoons, it came very easy, I guess.
It just reminds me of what they call those things. I can't think of the name. I can't think of the name of a lot of things right now. Don't worry about it.
Nah, you good.
Common rumor also states that the short was broadcast on TV in Costa Rica in the early 1990s and continues to air in other countries to this day. However, this claim is without source. Another cartoon in the public domain is Hittin the Trail for Hallelujah Land, the earliest of all the Censored 11, having been made in 1931 under Rudolph Ising as director. It was released in theaters on November 28th, and like many of the other cartoons from this group, was praised by Motion Picture Herald. A New York Strand audience seemed to enjoy this number of the Merry Melodies series, in which popular song numbers accompany the animated cartoon figures. But its content contains those same ethnic stereotypes that have been present in all of the ones we've covered so far. The reason for its inclusion on the list is the use of a dog-like character resembling the Uncle Tom epithet, and being too integral within the cartoon for simple cuts to make it viewable for modern-day audiences. The only re-release Hallelujah Land ever got was in the unofficial collections, with the exception of its screening at the Turner Classic Movies Film Festival. The Uncle Tom epithet was used more extensively in another cartoon called Uncle Tom's Bungalow from 1937, with Tex Avery as director. It's a parody based on the 1852 novel Uncle Tom's Cabin, and relies heavily on many stereotypical portrayals that would be impossible to edit out for modern-day audiences. Wooden shacks, cotton fields, and Uncle Tom speak for itself as a reason why it was banned. However, unlike the previously banned cartoons that have never had an official re-release by Warner Brothers, segments of Uncle Tom's Bungalow can be...
If y'all look at it close, you would think that her boo was named Popeyes.
Oh, that's what you mean by they just...
Yeah, all the characters and
everybody.
Yeah, they just took it because at some point, some of these to them was hits. And it was like, we would have made millions off of this. People would have ate it up. But they couldn't do it because of the times it was in.
Right.
Which made sense. Like, if you're going to benefit off what was in history, you have to paint it in a way where it's not too aggressive. Why not make it a cartoon? And even then, with the baggy clothes, the huts and the broken down and the clothes on the power line, that paints the same picture of what they was going through at the time.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy? Out of all of this, we're not talking about like a news show or an adult show. We're talking about cartoons aimed for kids. This isn't no Night Swim. That's what it's called? Adult Swim.
Adult Swim. That's another level right there.
Any cartoons after dark. This was aimed for children.
Yeah. The babies would see this and not see, that black people was actually thriving. They would see them in positions to where, we do that. Wow, this makes sense.
Yeah, well, the hunter, he wasn't really a bad character.
That was a simple one, though.
Yeah, that was a simple one. But all these other ones, racism is taught, okay?
And if you look at it, bro, like, definitely, like, hold on, let me rewind it just for y'all to see it one more time.
For itself as a reason why it was banned. However, unlike the previously banned cartoons that have never had an official re-release by Warner Brothers.
Funny.
The long hands.
The long hands, man. I don't know her name, but the lady who was in a relation with Popeyes and Oba was always fighting for her. Yeah, that's all that is. They just take the same characters and just put them in another scene, change them up a little bit.
Uncle Tom's Cabin. No, it wasn't. It may have not been set in Louisiana, but it was definitely set in the South. Maybe Mississippi.
Yeah. I mean,
the clothespin, everything. I'm just trying to understand why they have her with a big head and small lips. Well, small features on her face. And
her hands are the size of her whole torso, like her whole belly.
I don't know. What is it?
Segments of Uncle Tom's Bungalow can be seen in the 1989 home video Cartoons for Big Kids by Turner Entertainment.
For big kids.
Interestingly, this VHS seems to be lost media, as it cannot currently be viewed online, but copies themselves are not hard to find. Since their banning in 1968 by United Artists, a production company founded on allowing actors to control their own interests rather than commercial studios, the Censored 11 have never officially been re-released to the market in full. This sentiment has largely been held up by Ted Turner since 1986, when he obtained the rights to the pre-1950 Warner Brothers library. But that sentiment was nearly changed. An article from October 2010 from Toon Zone states that Warner Brothers confirmed it would be re-releasing all Censored 11 cartoons, completely uncut on DVD, through the Warner Archives program. While at the New York Comic Con, I paid a visit to the Warner Archive booth and discovered a most pleasant surprise. The man working said they are coming out with the infamous Censored 11, and it will be available through the Warner Archive sometime in 2011. He also mentioned that it is their most requested title. But only a few days later, on October 13th, the original report was updated, with Warner Brothers claiming that no firm decision had been made on whether the release would be through Warner Archive or a commercial release, and furthermore, if they would be re-releasing them at all. It seemed to be very up in the air at the time for Warner Brothers, until 2 months later, Jerry Beck announced on a call-in program that Warner had decided to go through with a general release of the cartoons, but would include other rare cartoons and bonuses on the DVD. Still, this release never came in 2011, and it wouldn't be until 2016 when Jerry updated its status, stating the transfers had been done, but the DVD release was delayed indefinitely. And then in 2018, word got out that the collection had been scrapped. The decision to cancel its release was made due to changing cultural sensitivities. This in itself has led to a debate about whether or not the cartoons should be re-released for historical purposes.
How do y'all feel?
Historical purposes.
How do y'all feel? How do you feel, babe? Before I say how I feel.
Pertaining to which part?
Why release it?
Why re-release it?
Yeah, why release it?
Okay, and he ended it just where you paused it about historical reasons. You can aim it that way, historically, and it would definitely hit in that bracket. You know what I'm saying? Because you're seeing it for the times that it was released for.
Right.
But at the same time, like how we're looking at it now, you know, it's like it has that imagery where it's kind of stereotyped and whatnot, but I feel like it would be more sensible for the historical.
Yeah, that's
historical bracket.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Don't release it as entertainment for children, because that's definitely not for children.
Yeah.
But definitely release it as a means of education, historical education, because I remember seeing again, I can't think of the name of the you know, the blackface dancers. What they call them?
Yeah, I forgot, but yeah,
I forgot what they call them. But just like that, like if we were never taught that stuff, we would never know it. Never knew that happened. And I do know that it wouldn't be taught in schools, especially with them trying to ban critical race theory and all of that. So
right, and that's another combo.
I feel like it's a learning lesson. It's education, you know? Yeah,
it could definitely be used as educational and a level of entertainment, only because it's like if kids are watching it, they can enjoy it easier because it's in the format that it's in. You know what I'm saying? It's not too serious. Format. Yeah, the format is always going to make people enjoy it a lot more depending on the age group. But with the teaching that's being pushed behind it, then they can understand it from another perspective. Like, okay, this is not just cartoon.
Right.
This is history. You know?
Right. Just like there were some movies that were banned before we were even born, but we still were taught about those movies in school.
Yeah.
So.
With Jerry Beck having claimed, the special screening event from 2010 was a way to test the waters for a potential DVD release. It's not known if the reception of this event had any role in the decision Warner Brothers made to not re-release the cartoons. Sunday Go to Meetin Time is another cartoon that is rooted in
minstrel dancers.
Minstrel dancers?
That's what it's called, minstrel. Because look at it.
Do you think it would have been obvious though that there was selling cartoon films off of the imagery that they had in history?
Yeah.
It would have been obvious for that time, so they couldn't release it for educational purposes around this time.
Well, this is 2010.
Oh, this is up to date?
We knew about this now, but back then you're talking about the 1940s.
Yeah, back in the 1960s and 40s,
because it wasn't just a cartoon. These people were actually making money in the flesh, getting gigs off of minstrel dancing. So, yeah.
Okay.
In stereotypes and outdated portrayals of characters, with everyone having the same over-exaggerated features as seen in other cartoons. Caricatures like Mammy's and Uncle Tom's also make appearances,
that's funny.
With the main character being referenced as a gambler and troublemaker.
Come on, die.
Who's supposed to be Grandma? Mammy? She like Mama about to take all them babies to church.
Nah.
With the book in her hand.
Yeah, it looked like she going to church here.
And then she's putting Vaseline on all them babies. That's what I saw.
I mean, that's a stereotype, but baby, at least you know we moisturize.
Yeah, that's what I saw. And then you got the Mammy's barbecue pit. Yo, I see so much culture in this.
I mean, yes, but I feel like why us?
We was easy targets to make money off of, like the history. They could have. That's not good, but at the end of the day,
make me feel good inside.
No, I know. I feel you 100%. But this is the representation that they was displaying that they seen was easy to be suitable. I don't see how they would have put themselves in front of it and been like, well, this is how we're going to celebrate us. This is what we're going to be represented as. This is how we're going to be viewed as to the world. We was easy picks.
Our
People
life,
seeing us, yeah.
their entertainment.
It basically been that way.
Yeah.
There.
Child.
You're good for nothing. Get yourself into that church. The devil's going to get you sure as you're born.
I don't want to go to no church.
It goes without saying
Why
why
all
this
the
cartoon
men
ended up on the censored
spoke like
11,
that?
even with praise from critics of the era, failing to recognize the painful imagery.
Nah, so what I see,
The
yeah,
final
when you say that, what I see is basically like the hardworking men. Tired, backs broke, you know what I'm saying?
He was a troublemaker.
Was he?
Yeah, that's what they say. The main character was a troublemaker.
Well,
That was her son, obviously.
Oh, he had to go to
Had
church
to be
then.
his son. Yeah.
But then they had another brother walking by. All the men so far seemed to look like that though. Like
Yeah,
they was
but-
dragging.
But all the men, and that's where stereotypes begin. Because all of the men in the cartoons that we have seen so far, they have that drawn out accent. You know, they from the South sound like. Well, we all from the South, honestly. But yeah.
Yeah, these stereotypes are definitely like if you think about it now, because this is about stereotypes. To see this on TV, like when you see me,
Would
you
you
see.
wanna watch it?
I am not just like the star of it is not even up to par.
It's not
You
funny.
know what I'm saying?
It's not fun. I can imagine being a child of that time watching that on TV and laugh at my pain.
Without realizing it.
Well, your parent will see you watching it, laughing, and come knock you upside the head.
I would hope so.
Shoot.
The Friz Freeling cartoons, Clean Pastures is similar to Sunday Go to Meetin Time, in that it has religious tones, though they're approached in a more fictitious way. After the stock in Paradise drops to an all-time low, an angel is sent to Harlem to recruit new customers. He fails and is instead replaced by a musical group of angels, succeeding so well that even the devil wants to go. Needless to say, this short's plot relies heavily on its musical style, but this was also one of the more heavily criticized points, as it created a negative perception of 1930s jazz music onto white audiences. This is also similar to how the Isle of Pingo Pongo, another Friz Freeling cartoon, gave jazz a negative connotation as it was described as a savage rhythm. Religious scholar Judith Weisenfeld even stated that the cartoon is no better than the rural depictions of this concept, only that it uses Harlem as an urban backdrop instead. Unsurprisingly, Hollywood censors had issues with Clean Pastures, but not for its stereotypes that were common and accepted in the 1930s, but rather that it promoted vices like gambling and drinking. Though this had no reflection on its inclusion to the censored 11, it was the portrayal of African Americans that put it on.
Now you can only imagine when they say that they brought these bad things to the streets and corrupted the homes and the environments and stuff. This is a symbolism of this right here, right? When you're young and you see this type of imagery, this is the first thing you want to go do when you play outside. It's not something that you see where, like today is, you know what I'm saying, the kids are being futuristic. They want to try time travel. They want to play with science. So now you got all the kids want to play with science.
Yeah.
But then you have this type of imagery and it's the total opposite. It's more street, it's more real life, but yet in the most animated form ever. And they're probably seeing their parents go out, do the exact same thing.
So that was in their minds. So
the reality was television and true stuff. Like
I don't know. I'm trying to think back as a child watching Warner Brothers cartoons. I don't remember seeing much of this. I just remember
I ain't see one. I ain't see none of this.
Yes.
No.
And at home, forest
imagery.
And at home settings.
I ain't see no real imagery of like a black cartoon. Not on Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers.
Until the Boondocks. That's
the
it.
Boondocks, yeah, when the Boondocks hit.
What was before the Boondocks? I think it was just Boondocks.
Fat Albert.
Oh, okay, Fat Albert.
They cleaned it up
Crowd,
though.
all that.
Yeah.
When we got a little. Oh no, it was still young.
Nah, yeah, we still look a
I
little.
don't remember.
But yeah, around them ages, but not like this though. It wasn't this.
That's
in
why
your face like.
I'm trying to understand how was this aimed for children? How was the target audience children? Unless back in the day, you know, adults just like watching TV. Because I know they did have one of those VCR tapes that said cartoons for big kids, aka adults.
But don't cartoons last longer?
Yeah.
Don't cartoons have more of a universal effect than a season of a like an adult film?
Yeah.
Hey.
The list by Artists United, as the previous ones had been.
They just having a good
Goldilocks and the Jivin Bears
what is this?
is another cartoon that also heavily uses jazz within its plot, as the titular bear characters can be seen playing their instruments when they catch on fire. They have to let them cool down, and in the meantime, Goldilocks finds her way to their house, similar to the
Goldilocks
actual
is black?
story. Except this time, the wolf from Little Red Riding Hood is tired of waiting for her and chases Goldilocks instead around the bear's house. When they return and see the chase, they shout Jitterbug, and everyone breaks out into dance.
We heard Jitterbug.
Which happens again when the scene changes back to Little Red Riding Hood.
There's that Jitterbug!
The Jitterbug dance, having connections to African American culture, with the portrayal of the bear characters in stereotype fashion, would make it impossible to censor in order to be viewed in a suitable way for modern-day audiences. In general, Warner Brothers cartoons were routinely censored, as they were passed only when completed, which led producers to be overly cautious about restrictions. This is in contrast to films, which could be censored as early as the scripting phase. Chuck Jones made a statement about the practice of censoring cartoons in a 1983 article by Ben Fanton, where Jones stated, "I don't like to see the films cut at all. They make some cuts that are so arbitrary and stupid you can't believe it." Independent stations that once ran the syndicated Warner Brothers cartoons never had the same type of censorship as first-run networks such as ABC and CBS did for the cartoons. Some stations even owned syndication rights to a few they considered racially stereotypical, but never ran them. The final two censored 11 spots both go to Bob Clampett, who hasn't been discussed at all in the video up to this point. There's a particularly interesting reason for that, as the cartoons he directed that ended up on the censored 11 have a deeper backstory than the ones previously discussed, and Coal Black is one of those cartoons. It could be considered one of the most famous censored 11, and has been discussed decades after its release by historians alike. Coal Black, full title Coal Black and the Sebben Dwarfs, is a jazz-based parody.
Yo, the Sebben Dwarfs was a jazz Sebben.
Cause you know how we speak.
Yeah.
So baby, you going into the cartoon with a stereotype.
I mean, then they flip it to the actual Sebben Dwarfs and the little lady.
And what is this?
That's
What is this?
with the socks, see?
Child, look at it. I don't understand what I'm looking at. Child.
On Disney's Snow White, taking place during World War II in America.
No!
It follows the Wicked Queen who loses her prince to the titular character, named So White in the cartoon, and the Seven Dwarfs who are army men,
This is funny,
constantly
yo.
referencing World War II slogans and living on a campground. It goes without saying that the cartoon is full of exaggerated features, racist tones, and outdated references that would no longer be
I would have been
acceptable.
scared, bro.
But the
I was
long-standing
scared, I'm like,
debate
what the
about
what?
it comes from its intent rather than its content, and why it was created in the first place. According to Bob Clampett himself, in the late 70s, the foundation of this cartoon came from a place that was not intended to be racist. He states, "In 1942, during the height of anti-Japanese sentiment during World War II, I was approached in Hollywood by the cast of an all-black musical off-Broadway production called Jump for Joy, while they were doing some special performances in Los Angeles. They asked me why there weren't any Warner cartoons with black characters, and I didn't have any good answer to that question. So we sat down together and came up with a parody of Disney's Snow White, and Coal Black was the result. They did all the voices for that cartoon, even though Mel Blanc's contract with Warner's gave him sole voice credit for all Warner's cartoons by then. There was nothing racist or disrespectful towards blacks intended in that film at all, nor in Tin Pan Alley Cats, which is just a parody of jazz piano great Fats Waller, who was always hamming to the camera during his musical films. Everybody, including blacks, had a good time when these cartoons first came out. All the controversy about these two cartoons has developed in later years merely because of changing attitudes towards black civil rights that have happened since then.
And you can see that in the film.
Clampett even wanted Eddie Beals and his orchestra to score Coal Black, but the studio refused, so they were only able to record the final kiss scene. Unfortunately, this cartoon is ironic in that it was intended to be a tribute to African American culture, but due to how the culture was represented at the time, it still suffers from the same stereotyping problems as all the previous Censored 11 cartoons, which is why it remains on the list. And despite the attention to detail some critics give it, Coal Black has not been re-released in full since its banning, with the exception of clips from the Cartoons for Big Kids VHS.
Okay, so
crazy.
that one, what they showed, other than the main character, which I didn't understand what was going on in that picture.
I think she was mean though. Like they painted her to be mean.
I didn't know what her body was. That's what I'm saying. I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't see anything wrong with that, and I love that the man created a space for black people.
100%. I mean, it's a big difference from what we seen earlier in the film today, you guys, to what we're looking at now. You see a lot of dancing, a lot of smiling, a lot of there was obviously short relation. You know what I'm saying? The other films, they just looked tired all the time.
Yeah,
they always looked
lazy
and like they didn't want to do anything, and
which has always been funny to me. I never understood why people called blacks in America lazy.
Right.
I never understood that. Just speaking from a historical point, okay? I ain't talking about people that abuse the system and just don't want to do nothing. I ain't talking about them people.
Right.
I'm talking about as a whole. I never understood that.
Yep, and then my thing is though, watching these films from black people turn into, what it is today, like with the Amafudge, and this one obviously the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs they're not black today. You know what I'm saying? They're
right.
Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Dwarfs, yeah.
So it's different, man. It evolved. It did what it had to do, but for the times that some of these films are out, they had some substance to it.
Now again, it's easy for us to make statements when we haven't watched the whole clip to see what people may have seen that was offensive, but from the little snippets that we've seen, I don't see a problem. Other than the lady that I didn't understand what her body meant. Other than that, and animations are supposed to be exaggerated.
Yeah, 100%.
Not exaggerated where it hurts people, but exaggerated, like the hips moving.
My thing though, and I'm gonna drop a pin right here, is when they will paint the image, I feel like it was for the time that they were still living in, so they didn't see anything. Like if you put a whole bunch of homeless people together, they won't see nothing more than homeless people. So what more can they do? Just remain that way. When you have a whole bunch of people that's looking at the imagery of like they don't have good houses, they're not in a position to evolve, they're not doing anything, they're fussing all the time, they always look angry. On film, troublemakers, you know what I'm saying? Like they can't do nothing but do what they see.
Right.
Especially if you don't have no one around that's telling you that you can be more than what they're displaying on TV, because that's obviously for the time that they was living in. That's my whole thing about it. They was creating film for the time they was living in.
Yeah.
It wasn't for the time in advance. Like, it wasn't 2 steps ahead of them. It was meeting them what it was.
Exactly. But this one cartoon had the people involved in the making of it. Now, the other ones didn't seem to have black people involved in the making of it. So that's why I see why it's wrong. This one, they created a space.
Yeah, but it's cartoons though, so.
Yeah. But children.
Children,
remember that. This is for children.
When they pointed it for the babies, they wanted the babies to look at it and say what they wanted.
And the screening at the Turner Classic Movies Film Festival in 2010. The last Censored 11 cartoon that Clampett mentioned is Tin Pan Alley Cats, which is his follow-up to Coal Black, and also focuses on African American culture, jazz music, and World War II. Animation buffs have defended Clampett on these points, with Michelle Klein-Haas stating, "Some even look at Clampett's jazz cartoons and cry racism, when Clampett was incredibly ahead of his time and was a friend to many of the greats of the LA jazz scene. All the faces you see in Tin Pan Alley Cats and Coal Black are caricatures of real musicians he hung out with at the Central Avenue Jazz and blues clubs of the 40s. He insisted that some of these musicians be in on the recording of the soundtracks for these 2 cartoons. But no matter how you look at Bob Clampett's work, or even the other 9 Censored 11 cartoons, They stand to show a time of American culture and history that was once accepted and no longer is. However, at the same time, it's important to learn about these cartoons and view them from a historical standpoint, a sentiment that has been previously echoed as well. Whoopi Goldberg made an appearance in the Looney Tunes Gold Collection Volume 3 DVDs, which featured other censored cartoons, and spoke about how these cartoons shouldn't be forgotten despite their offensiveness.
The Looney Tunes and their irreverent brand of humor are products of their time. Unfortunately, at that time, racial and ethnic differences were caricatured in ways that may have embarrassed and even hurt people of color, women, and ethnic groups. Now, nobody intended it, but that's what happened. Now, some of the cartoons here reflect some of the prejudices that were commonplace in American society, especially when it came to the treatment of racial and ethnic minorities. Now, these jokes were wrong then, and they are wrong today. But removing these inexcusable images and jokes from this collection would be the same as saying they never existed. So they are presented here to accurately reflect a part of our history that cannot and should not be ignored.
And now, if you ever see more of those racist cartoon uploads on YouTube marked as for kids, you'll know where they came from and why they exist, as part of American and cartoon history. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed.
It's a good part of history, and people do need to be able to see that.
Yeah.
You know, although it does hurt, you know, it helps you to understand the times of the past.
100%. I think Whoopi said it great too, though. I didn't think about it. The jokes that was being said inside of these films.
Because we didn't hear the jokes.
We didn't hear. We just looking at the imagery. So the jokes inside of it is probably what's really starting sparking a nerve too.
Right.
You know,
and that is why I said it's easy to say, oh, we don't see nothing wrong because we're seeing little clips.
And like you said earlier, we didn't have the film where we had voices. It was just straight people doing their thing. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe that's a reason they took all the voices out.
Maybe so. Again, this is cartoon. I believe it should have been used for educational purposes, but because of the time that they was in, they was using it for the imagery to benefit off of what was being displayed in the environment inside of communities. And it was definitely making a buck for it. Look at it. Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers still, like, to this day, pretty much. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Oh, and another thing. Again, you guys, this is blind reaction, so we don't go in here looking at this stuff, picking and pointing out what we want to talk about. So my thing is, did they, in any sort of way, protest this, you think?
I'm sure they made a fuss about it.
Yes, for them to want to have to take it down.
To take it down, I'm sure they made a fuss about it, especially around the civil rights time.
See, so it's right there in your face. You just gotta be for that. You gotta understand that time though.
Right. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Like this video, subscribe, turn on the post notification bell. We have enabled our super thanks if you like to support the channel that way, as well as our reaction request form is on our description box below. We'll see you soon. Peace.